Exactly 1 week ago today, the Chicago Bears made their big move. They went and got their quarterback of the future. Well, they certainly hope Justin Fields is going to be that. I certainly hope he's going to be that. Pretty sure every other Chicago Bears fan says, please, dear God, don't be Mitchell Trubisky. Please, oh God, don't be Rex Grossman. Please, oh God, don't be Cade McSuckus. We hope it. We hope it. So, the whole outlook, it seems like, has changed for this organization, and the mindset and attitude and viewpoints of a lot of the fans that I'm seeing on social media has changed dramatically. Like, there is a general buzz and excitement that we never got with the drafting of Trubisky in 2017. Like, not a lot of people were ecstatic or happy about that, and later on it was validated as to why, like me. But this time feels a little different. And I know I kind of talked about this already a little less than a week ago, but it needs to be talked about again. It absolutely does. The Bears made the move. They went up and got Justin Fields. That means that the powers that be within that organization, the shot callers, felt like Justin Fields was the guy that could turn this franchise around. That Justin Fields could be that dude. That Justin Fields could actually create a legitimate championship window for this organization at some point in time down the road. Which means, when you make a move like this, that a lot of things must change. The mindset must change in terms of how you build the team. You must invest heavily, consistently on the offensive side of the ball. Not negotiable. The best way to help your young quarterback is to build the offense up around him. Ultimately, if you want to win a championship, you're going to have to be able to score points. That happens on the offensive side of the ball, not the defensive side of the ball. I would hope we do not have to belabor this point anymore. This should be obvious. But not only does it take a change of mindset in terms of rethinking how the team should be built, how the roster should be stacked, where the investment and resources should be spent, which, to be clear, are all on the offensive side of the ball now. That's not where it's at now, but that's where it needs to gravitate towards in the next 2 to 3 years, certainly. There must be this larger mindset change. That means that everybody must be aligned with this, is that it is all about Justin Fields now. Nothing else matters. It is all about this young man, his development, his growth at the quarterback position, period. We're playing a bit of the infinite game here, where you're trying to figure out if he could be the dude for 12, 15, 18, 20 years. You are not trying to sit there and win meaningless games with mediocre quarterbacks this year. You're not. And as a result, it felt like it was very important to, especially with some of the responses and replies I've gotten with social media and so forth over the past week, to once again make the case as to why Justin Fields, absolutely, positively, there is no argument beyond a shadow of a doubt, should be the Chicago Bears starting quarterback for week 1. Period. And there are several different reasons for this. Number 1, the other options are what? Andy Dalton and Nick Foles? You know they're not the dudes. You do not have long-term hopes invested in them. You do in Justin Fields. 'Tis better to find out early whether or not he could be that guy. Period. Why would you sit there and kick the can down the road to win meaningless games with a quarterback that you're not going to win a championship with when you feel like you may have drafted a quarterback that you could build a championship team around? Makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense to start in Andy Dalton. That's dumb. That's just continuing to belabor the stupidity. That's exactly what it is. Then you also look at it and say, okay, when you think about Justin Fields and the investment in him, it's not just the 11th pick. In reality, what it is you invested the 20th overall pick this year, a first rounder and fourth rounder next year. So you're talking about you invested a lot in this young man in terms of draft pick capital. For all intents and purposes, sabotaged a good portion of next year's draft. So the most important thing in this year's draft class and the most important thing in next year's draft class are all tied up into Justin Fields. That means you want to get the maximum return on that investment. Furthermore, when we talk about the Andy Dalton, Nick Foles type of shit, part of the purpose of wanting to draft and develop a young quarterback and taking that guy in round one is to maximize your window of opportunity for that young man on his rookie scale contract. You got 4 years, team option for the 5th. And even after 3 or 4 years, if you decide to extend him, you can tack it onto the deal later and still keep him on that incredibly cap-friendly, team-friendly number for the next almost half-decade. As a result, you want to maximize that as much as you possibly can and take full advantage of it. And the best way to do that is by starting the young man. Period. Then you get those fans that will say, well, Andy Dalton might give him a better chance to win a couple of more games. What the fuck game are you playing here? Would you rather have the Bears go 6-10 and have Justin Fields show you that he could be that guy? Or would you rather go, let's say 7-10 or 6-11? So I forgot, it's a 17-game season now. Or would you rather go 8-9 or 9-8 with fucking Andy Dalton? The first scenario tells you may have sacrificed a bit this season, but you were playing the long-term game, and man, has the trajectory of the organization changed like that. The other one belabors the mediocrity mindset of the McCaskey way even more and leaves you with all of these questions and doubts about what the fuck Justin Fields is or isn't in terms of the long-term picture as the Chicago Bears starting quarterback. And frankly, when you talk about it, you know what Dalton is. You know what Foles is. You don't know what Justin Fields can be. What you do know is that he does bring elite physical traits to the table that the other guys just don't. So this whole notion of that they would win more games with a Dalton or a Foles as a starting quarterback as opposed to Justin Fields, I think is fucking ridiculous. What the hell makes you think that? If anything, it would stand to reason potentially that you might win more games with the more physically talented player at the most important position on your fucking team. So you can miss me with all this, you play Dalton because he gives you the best chance to win more games. Based on what? Based on what? That's stupid. Stop it. And another thing to think about, Bears fans, as much as y'all like to talk about being negative, I wasn't even the biggest Fields guy. I had a mid-late second round grade on him. He's got some flaws. But you'll notice, now that it's happened, everything's got to go behind him. My mindset has changed. Some of you, your mindset must change. And the organization's mindset must change. Why in the bluest of blue fucks would you want to follow the same pathetically predictable pattern of failure behavior that they have done before with Trubisky, with freaking Grossman, with Cade McNown? We're not going to start him right away. We're going to sit him on the bench and learn. What a dumbass, stupid concept. The whole notion that you're going to learn more sitting on the bench as opposed to actually playing and going out there and plying your craft and learning on the fly. Nobody would sit there in the regular working and business worlds and say, man, the best way that you learn is the training class, not actually doing the job. That's stupid, and everybody damn good and well knows it. Even your trainers in your training classes will say, we can only set kind of the foundation and the bedrock here, but you got to go out there and figure out how to apply those skills based off of those fundamentals. The best way you learn is to do the damn job. Why would you want to repeat the same pattern of behavior that you used with Cade McNown, Rex Grossman, and fucking Trubisky. That makes no sense. Grossman sat out most of 2003 behind Cordell Stewart. For crying out loud. Trubisky had to wait 4 games because of giraffe neck. Cade McNown, if you remember, was a rookie when he was a 12th overall pick out of UCLA. Jerron's like, oh, we're going to bring him in for a series every game, and then he'll get some starts, and then... Like, what the hell did that do? It was insignificant. It didn't matter. You have to find out if these guys are the future, and you don't find that out if they're sitting on the fucking bench. Which brings us to some of the dumbasses that are going to sit there and bring up the points like, well, Aaron Rodgers sat on the bench for 3 years, and look at how he turned out. Patrick Mahomes sat on the bench for a year, and look at how he turned out. Ding dong, dumb dicks! The league has changed. The NFL is different than that dumbass mindset of 20, 25, 30 years ago. When you draft a guy this high, you're drafting him that high because you, A, don't have the answer at the position, and B, you think this guy can be. There is no reason to sit there and sit on. There is no reason to wait. None. And furthermore, let's take a look at these examples that will always get thrown out there. The Aaron Rodgers example. Do the Bears have Brett Favre, a Hall of Famer, as their starting quarterback? No! That's stupid! Of course they don't. So the scenario is entirely different. As far as the Alex Smith one, because that's a more recent example that a lot of a-holes are going to point to, well, let's put it this way. Alex Smith, as much as I wasn't a fan of him, Alex Smith is infinitely better at that stage heading into 2017 in his career than Andy Dalton is currently. And even then, I could actually sit there and say it was a really dumb dick thing for them to do, because what happened with Alex Smith? He had arguably the best season of his career, but when he got into the playoffs, it all fucking fell apart. Now imagine if they had went with Patrick Mahomes all year and allowed him to get on the field a year earlier. He got, one start as a rookie? We're going to find out much about him. But imagine if he did that for 16 games. You really think that year of him sitting on the goddamn bench made all the difference to him being the MVP of the league in 2018? No, if anything, it led to you delaying that by a fucking year and finding out what you had in the guy. I guess so stupid. The name of the game is to find out what you got in him right away. You look at Cincinnati, and we're going to go to this most recent draft, just as one example. Joe Burrow started from day one. Yes, he got hurt. It was a rough injury, but what have you. Bengals fans in the organization, though, because Burrow played day one and they got a chance to see what he could do from day one, say, you know what? We think he could be the guy, and we're going to be building around him. Justin Herbert, thankfully for Chargers fans, Tyrod Taylor got wounded by the doc before the start of that Chiefs game. Justin Herbert came in, played the vast majority of the season, had a record-setting rookie season, and guess what? The Chargers now know that he could be that fucking dude, and they are building around him. Meanwhile, the Miami Dolphins, with the dumb dick, we're going to redshirt Tua a little bit process, then after 6 games brought him in, and then kept yanking him in and out, back and forth. And now you get to the point where the Bengals are building around Burrow and feel confident in what they have. The Chargers have built around Herbert and they're confident in what they have. The Miami Dolphins don't know what the fuck they have. So why in the hell would you want to sit there and follow that model? If Fields for some reason isn't that dude, 'tis better to find out early than later. And every game that he doesn't start is a wasted opportunity. Because what are you going to end up with? Some type of situation like Bob set up with the Houston Texans in 2017? Like Deshaun Watson should have been the game 1 starter. That dumb dick started Tom Savage for a half and then had to go to Deshaun any fucking ways. You draft these young kids high for a reason. Play them. Typical Bears football mindset is to sit the young quarterbacks and have them learn. Which is exactly why you don't want to fucking do that here. His organization traditionally doesn't know what the hell they're doing with the quarterback position, so why would you continue the same behavior that has helped contribute to some of the problems of the past? That makes no damn sense. You have made this big move for Fields. There is a benefit there for drafting that quarterback 11th overall, because if he can be that dude, It saves you a ton of cap space over the next few years that you can really build a championship contending offense and team around him. But every game that he doesn't play, every game that he doesn't start, is a wasted opportunity to find out what the fuck you have. I don't know about any of you Bears fans, but for me, I would rather be the Bengals or the freaking Chargers than I would be the goddamn Dolphins. As much as everybody wants to praise the Dolphins for what they've done in the draft and the team that they've built, at the end of the day, if Tua sucks, Flores, the general manager, they should all be shown the fucking door. Because the most pivotally critical, important position, they would have screwed up and potentially done it multiple times. They took Tua instead of Herbert because they were stupid. Then the next year, when they were in a position where they could have drafted a Trey Lance third or a Justin Fields third or a Mac Jones third, they didn't do that. It's great to build the team up, but if you don't have the quarterback, the point is we don't know what Miami has in Tua right now, and Miami doesn't know. You could think you know that he sucks. You could think that you know he'll be great when they put more talent around him. Either of those can be true. The problem is you're in year 2 and you don't know. And in today's league and the way things are set up, you can't afford to wait 4 or 5 years to potentially find out. And it doesn't usually take that long to find out. It doesn't. You start getting to 24 to 32 starts, you're starting to get a pretty good idea. You got to play these kids right away. It is absolutely the right decision if you're saying, well, you don't want to put them into a tough spot. Well, you know what? The situation is not always going to be great. What better way to test the kid's mettle and toughness and leadership and tenacity and ability to overcome adversity than putting him into the fucking fire? You say, well, what happens if he gets hurt? He could get hurt at any fucking time. You can't sit there and never play him because you're afraid that the block is going to suck or the receivers are going to suck or that he's going to get hurt. Then what the fuck did you trade up like you did to freaking take him? And the whole thing, some of you will come back with, well, Nagy and Pace are trying to save their job. One, are you sure? I find it very hard to believe that Goofy George and Green Counting Ted would have signed off on this trade impacting next year's draft unless at least Ryan Pace had some type of future job security if he doesn't already have a fucking contract extension. However, if the Bears won less games with Justin Fields, but Justin Fields looked like he's going to be the dude, then that's a better reflection on Matt Nagy, the head coach, and Ryan Pace, the general manager. And winning 6 or 7 games with Fields as a starter all year, to me, should carry infinitely more weight with the organization than winning 8 or 9 games with Andy Dalton. That's the shit that would get Pace and Nagy fired. Winning 6 or 7 with Justin Fields probably saves their job, potentially get some extensions, and frankly, I will tell you this much, yes, I'm going to say it, if Fields shows you as a rookie, not like the shit that a lot of you tried with Trubisky, like you tried to talk yourself into something that wasn't evidently true, like you had to work so hard to create that bullshit narrative because you knew it was bullshit. You're going to find out with Fields when you actually get a chance. You actually, hopefully, will get a chance very early to understand. I don't have to make up a bunch of shit, or I don't have to put the hard sell on. Like, it's obvious. You know that he's the fucking dude. If he's the fucking dude, then the whole shit with the organization changes. That means that Nagy's actually shown that he can coach a quarterback like frickin' Justin Fields. That means that Ryan Pace may have finally gotten the position right, and at that point in time, you do have to reward him with contract extensions. Well, that's less than an ideal thought for me. At the end of the day, all of that doesn't matter. It's all about Justin Fields and his development. The best way to maximize his time to develop is to play him, period. You have no argument against that. The best way to take advantage of that cap number for the next 4 to 5 years is play him immediately. So you save money at the most important position so you can heavily reinvest in the offense and team around him. That's what you do. You're trying to play the future game here. You're not necessarily trying to keep up with the Green Bay Packers in 2021, even if Rodgers is still there, because Rodgers is going to be 38 this year. You're trying to take over the division and dominate the next 10 or 15 years when Rodgers is eventually gone. Like, you want to have the best quarterback in the division in the long term. That's what matters here. It's the only thing that matters. Stop thinking about these selfish-ass, negative, mediocre team wins that don't matter, and start thinking from a positive mindset of this right here, Justin Fields, is the only thing that fucking matters.
And when you look at how much you've invested in him in terms of draft pick capital, the best way to get an ROI on that is to play him. The best way to figure out what you got in him is to play him. The best way to take advantage of the fact that you drafted him is to play him. The best chance that you're going to give him to develop and show quickly that he could be the guy or not the guy is to play him. The right mindset is to play him. The wrong mindset is that dumb dick Bears football mindset of let him sit and watch and learn and develop. Why in the fuck would you want to sit there and do what the Bears organization always does at the position they always fuck up? That's stupid! Justin Fields must be the day one starter. He's the best option they can roll with at the position. And everything is about him now. You don't want to be like the Dolphins, where you're trying to build a team around a quarterback that you don't know whether or not he can be the dude. You need to find out early as you possibly can whether or not he can be that dude or not. The only way you do that is by playing in week 1. That's it.